Okay, so we are back and we are back with a surprise. Who's this guy on screen? We have Yogesh Mahesh and we have Haaris Kirmani. So welcome Haaris. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
You are the lucky first fan to be interviewed by us on this show. So really good to have you on board.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Did you watch the previous episode?
I did watch the previous episode. Enjoyed it quite a bit.
Okay, nice. Good. So we had this campaign, as you know, about the day I saw Sachin, and there were some really good entries by everybody. We were particularly interested in your entry because of two reasons. One being obviously you stuck to the timeline of 60 seconds, and that was very commendable. Second is you are from our neighboring country, Pakistan. So we wanted to hear a different perspective about Sachin. And I must say that was an Oscar-winning performance by you. Seriously, I would love to know from you, how did you hide those emotions, man? I mean, how did you lie so blatantly on that video?
I mean, as I said on there, it's love to hate scenario, right? I mean, you got to respect what it is, but at the same time, just a dagger to the heart every time he hits it.
You must be just waiting, man. When do I do a Miyandad show and when do I get Venu, Yogesh and Mahesh?
Yeah, then we'll talk.
Okay, great, Haaris. So good to have you on board. So I think we have a few questions to ask you, and we'll keep it really brief. Yogesh, you want to go first?
Right, Haaris. So what was your first memory of seeing Sachin bat, live or in any game as such? What do you remember of it?
Yeah, first memory of seeing him bat was just mostly throughout the '96 World Cup itself. I mean, that would be where obviously his legend started to be made, making about 570 runs in that cup. Even though they ended up losing the game, I think the most heroic knock I saw of Sachin was that semi-final one against Sri Lanka, where he was single-handedly keeping them afloat in that game. I mean, scoring 65 runs and pretty much, making it look like he was going to do it himself to go all the way, but then unfortunately overbalanced and got stumped, and then everything else from there just went bad. But that was definitely my first memory of Sachin in terms of like, wow, this is, holy, what am I watching over here? And then having seen him in Sharjah a couple of times, I mean, the one I gave was a big one. I'd say the most vivid memory would be the 2003 World Cup one, because that was just the kind of knock that would be one for the ages, right? Absolutely timeless, class above the rest, coming up in a must-win game for Pakistan. And, we put up a pretty good total, Saeed Anwar's last great innings, and then just all of that blown away by the sheer genius of Sachin. So, no doubt.
Well said. Absolutely.
And then what did you guys actually make of that? The way Sachin was playing Shoaib Akhtar, and obviously the way he dealt with Wasim Akram on the day and Waka Yunus after.
Yeah,
like, as and Pakistan, who would have thought that, these three people were very capable of knocking Sachin and rest of the Indian team out. How were you reacting when that attack of Sachin was happening?
Yeah, I mean, it was brilliant to watch. I'm still mad that Abdul Razak wasn't back at the 30-yard circle to take that catch, right? Should have been up. Wasim would have had him, would have changed the game. But no, it was brilliant. The way he was timing the ball was just like in that Shoaib Akhtar over itself. It was that third shot where he had that defensive one that just went for 4, and it's like, come on, man. Like at that point, it was just, it was just something to watch. Obviously, the entire game was just taken away by his sheer timing. Even the 2 wickets and 2 balls, it didn't change anything, right? So it was just how, on the day, you just have to tip your hat to someone who's just out of this world.
Perfect. Mahesh, your question?
Okay, Haaris, tell me, if you were to choose between Sachin and Inzi to bat for your life, who would you choose?
Vinu sent me this question a bit earlier, and I'm like, this is just going to stir up controversy because this is a much longer topic to have. But for me, it's all about format. In limited overs, to me, Sachin's the greatest batsman to ever play the game in that format. So if I'm choosing, it's there. In tests, I think it's a little bit closer. Who I actually want is either Dravid or Callis, but in between them, look, Inzi made 25 test centuries, 17 of those in winning scenarios, was a captain for a vast majority of them, and just much like Sachin had to carry the Indian batting of the 90s, kind of making it as a single man back to the wall, Inzi just had so many of those scenarios where he was against his against defeat, having to bat all the way through. And if I need someone to save my life, I want someone who's in those scenarios. So, gun to my head, I might take Inzi in tests, but like I said, give me Dravid and I'll take him any day.
Good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Good one.
Okay, just before we end the show, one last question. Do you think Virat Kohli versus Babar Azam is the new Sachin versus Saeed Anwar?
Another one, I think it's interesting because much like Babar is the only real batsman of class at this point for Pakistan, it's much like Sachin of the 90s doing the same thing. I don't think it's much a comparison at this point because one, Virat is 31, Babar is 25. There's a lot that happened there. I would say Babar started off his career better than Virat started his career, but Virat has hit much higher peaks at this point. So it's just a comparison that's probably more apt later on in their careers. But I think like all of them going to be great to the game. Virat is going to be one of the greatest to play the ODI game. Babar still has a long way to go. But to Babar's credit, I mean, if he hits 100 in his next 6 ODI innings, he'd be the fastest 12 ODI 100s. So these kind of things are showing the class of the man. So Virat's ahead now, higher peak. Babar has a long way to go, but really exciting to see that kind of talent coming out of Pakistan.
Oh yeah, Babar Azam is class. I mean, trust me, the way he plays those drives, right, it's sublime to watch. It's amazing.
Yeah, him taking apart Dale Steyn in that last South Africa series was just absolutely amazing. So.
Yep.
Good.
Great. Yep. I think we are done with the show for now. So thank you, Haaris. I really appreciate your time, and it's wonderful to hear your thoughts, from across the border. I mean, we all know what Indians think about Sachin, right? But we wanted to know the other perspective as well, which was brought beautifully by you today. So thank you. Thanks for your
Thank
thoughts.
you very much, Haaris.
Hey, very welcome. Absolutely great to have you on the show.
Okay. Cheers.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Take care.